There you are. Good morning and welcome to Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis, and here we are. It's a brand new day, another dime. And if you'd like to join in with me, well, you know where to find me, because I'm your man, I'm your man. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about today, and hopefully you're going to join in with me, and we'll, have a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of back-channeling, if you will. If you... If that's what you choose to call it, then so be it. So you are here, really, the only place where you can, play on your Echo device, where you can watch, you can listen to live shows and chat with hosts in real time. My name's Anthony Davis. This is The Anthony Davis Show, and you can catch me live every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. Pacific, that's 12 o'clock Eastern. And you can get involved in the show by sending me a message. You can ask questions, chime in on what we're talking about, or anything else you want to send our way. If you can see me right now, then you're watching on an Echo show or a Fire TV. So to talk to me, just wake up your device, say the magic word, which is say, and then your message. And if you're listening right now on an Echo speaker, you can't see me, then go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's backchannel.tv. So, welcome to you. Great to see you. Welcome. Willkommen. Bienvenue. Come on in and spend a little bit of time with us here on Backchannel. We're going to look through the news today. We've got lots of people already joining us. Steve's in Indiana. Stacey's here. Oh, she's subscribed. If you want to subscribe, just on your Echo show, just press that subscribe button in the bottom left-hand corner. So, what's on the show today? Yes, we've got the top House and Senate Republicans vowing to drive former President Donald Trump out of American politics after he incited a mob to attack the Capitol, according to a forthcoming book. We'll take a look at this in more detail. There's also the war in Ukraine, as Biden announces an additional $800 million arms package and $500 million in direct economic assistance for Ukraine. The US president's also banning Russian ships from American ports. And Hollywood's response to climate change includes donations and protests and other activism, but it's apparently missing out on an approach closer to home. So we'll look at that story too. And then finally, on this day in 1872, Billy Bitzer, the American cinematographer, was born in Boston. We'll look at some of his pioneering techniques. That's the plan. Stacey says, hello, Anthony, are you ready for the lunch hour? I am ready. I'm really enjoying this new eye line. I hope you're appreciating the effort that has gone into making this work, which involved me lifting the stand that my computer sits on, and now I can look at you and look at my computer at the same time. This is such a big deal for me. Small things for you, big things for me. Big things. Super excited about all of this. Okay, let's chime in now with some of our newspapers, see what's happening across the country. This is what we do. We look at the morning newspapers. We're going to start this day with Florida, everybody's favorite state, the freest state in America, the place where you can do anything you want. Anything you want. You can do anything you want in Florida. Major ruling after short tenure. Florida judge who ended mask mandate appointed in 2020. Yes, airlines and other public transportation no longer need require passengers to mask up, based on a Monday ruling by Florida native federal judge Catherine Kimball Mizell. Well, less than 2 years after her appointment, she's upended the travel industry as airlines and buses and subways and ride shares, they all scrambled to change their rules, and thought we'd have a little look in this article about who is this Lakeland-raised judge. She was confirmed the lifetime position of federal judge by a Republican-controlled Senate in the weeks after Donald Trump lost his bid for re-election. She was named to the bar in 2012. At age 33, she was the youngest Trump-nominated federal judge. During the nomination process, the nonpartisan American Bar Association declared her to not be qualified, citing her lack of experience in court. The Republican senators who voted for her pushed back against the assertion, lauding her work as a clerk for U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, as an attorney for the U.S. Department of Justice, and in the private sector at law firm Jones Day. Well, let's be clear about this. She's not qualified. Because anybody who was a qualified judge would know that reversing the mask mandate at the 11th hour was going to cause total chaos for the country. This is part of the responsibility of being a judge, is knowing the consequences of your actions. And therefore, it's pretty clear that fundamentally, people are going to, see your actions as partisan. Your action is partisan. It's not for the good of the nation. A sad story. Senate approves map. We've been talking all week about this map that Ron DeSantis has drawn. Well, the state Senate bowed to Governor Ron DeSantis' demand and approved on Wednesday a congressional redistricting map that could boost Republican seats in Congress from Florida while cutting in half those held by black Democrats. The plan was advanced 24-15 in a party-line vote after Democrats repeatedly attacked the new boundaries as hyper-partisan and harmful to black voters. When you begin to trample on marginalized people, that's when you have to do some self-reflection and see if what you're doing is right, said Senator Chevron Jones, who added that DeSantis had usurped the role of map-making that the state constitution tasks to the legislature. But Senator Kelly Stargell dismissed the Democrats' condemnation. While the map could turn 20 of the state's 28 congressional districts Republican and cuts from 4 to 2 the number of seats likely to elect a black congressman. So, that's a bit sad. Lee County ends mask rules for travelers. Okay, that's it really on the front of the news press this morning. Tate has joined us. Good morning, Tate, from Virginia. Welcome to Backchannel. If you want to press the subscribe button, then that would be great. Bottom left-hand corner of your Echo show. Just press the subscribe button if you like this show. And Ruby is in as well. Welcome, Ruby. Nice to see you. And No Name as well. If you want to change your name to a name, then just ask your device to change your name. Okay, let's look at the St. Lucie News Tribune next. Senate votes to limit Disney's power. I mean, DeSantis really is just going to war with everybody now, isn't he? It says the Florida State Senate voted on Wednesday to strip the Walt Disney Company of special privileges in regulating and maintaining 38 square miles of Central Florida, home to its 6 theme parks and resorts. The 23-16 vote on SB 4 came one day after Ron DeSantis said he wanted the legislature to repeal the governing structure for Disney's Florida properties. The entertainment giant became ensnared in election year culture warfare when its CEO vowed to work to repeal the Parental Rights in Education Act, which opponents decried as "Don't Say Gay." While lawmakers debated the measure, the DeSantis campaign for governor sent out a fundraising pitch declaring Disney had picked a fight with the wrong guy, and for contributions to join the fight against the Democratic machine and woke Disney executives. I mean, this is so offensive. It's so offensive. The Disney boss has a trans child. Obviously, that is a factor here, not in Disney's decision, but in Ron DeSantis' decision to fight against Disney. Democrats protested the Republicans' rush to punish the state's largest private employer for political speech degraded the legislative process. With all due respect, this is not about meaningful legislative review. This is punishment. It's political theater, and we are better than this, said Senator Lorraine Ausley, a Democrat from Tallahassee. So there we go. A photograph of a man catching over 100 invasive lizards as they spread far and fast. Wow, that's a big old lizard. It looks like a mini crocodile. I'd be terrified. That thing could definitely get my head in its mouth. Some people spend their retirement traveling the world or relaxing at home. Sid Pennington, I knew that would be his name, spends his trapping the invasive lizards threatening native wildlife in his community. He single-handedly captured at least 117 Argentine black and white tigers from the woods and neighborhoods in western Fort Pierce where he lives. Hang on a second, it says he's 60. Oh no, sorry, that's a photograph of Dan. That must be an assistant of his. Because he doesn't look like he's 60, he looks like he's like 28. You got to be very... Why do they put people's ages in things as well? Oh, Glad Octopus has joined us. Hi, Glad Octopus. welcome to Backchannel. If you want to press subscribe, it's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. We'd love that. Yeah, I've never understood why newspapers are obsessed with the ages of people. And I sometimes, when I'm reading the newspaper aloud, I purposely remove the age as I'm talking, because I just don't think it's fair, is it? I mean, think about that for a second. You know, why would you expose somebody's age? What's the benefit in that? Especially if it's a female. You know, the females in my family, they would not want their ages exposed, you know? Especially my 102-year-old grandmother, step-grandmother. She would not want her 60-year-old boyfriend to know that he is 40 years younger than her. She would not want him to know. And I'm not kidding about any of this. She's actually not 104. She is... How old's the Queen, Carla? Is she 96 or 94? Well, my step-grandmother was born the same year as the Queen. I think the Queen was born in, 1926 or something. When was it? Was she born in 26? Isn't that funny that I even remembered that? That's my... I love the fact that neither of us can do the math. I'm doing it on a calculator. Hang on. 20,2022 minus 1926. 96. Okay, so the Queen is 96. My step-grandmother is 96, and her boyfriend is in his mid-60s. Right? So there is nearly a 40-year age gap between the two of them. And I don't know how to say this politely, but I'll say it politely. They are still active. That's all I would say. That's all I'm going to say. There's a 40-year age gap. Yeah. And it's all still going on in that household, you know? And do you want to know the twist? There's a twist to this, Carla. You want to know the twist? He's married. He's married. This has been an affair that has been going on for 35 years. I mean, you know, this is the stuff of dreams, isn't it? You know, to be 96 and to know that you've got some married man just showing up and having his way with you once or twice a week, you know, at the age of 96. I don't think Her Majesty the Queen endures such a delightful calendar, you know? Hers is more garden parties and handshakes, you know? Not in the south of England. I mean, it doesn't bear thinking about. I'm sorry if I've put you off your lunch. Fort Pierce music venue aims to strike a chord with audiences. Apparently, it's all going to be about the music. Priscilla Speech's vision for the Harmony Music Lounge in downtown Fort Pierce is different than the surrounding bars and restaurants. There's plenty of places with live music, but the music is not the feature. It's just a guy in the corner and nobody's really paying attention. Her new entertainment venue, which she hopes to open in May, will focus on music genres not as often heard on the Treasure Coast, such as bluegrass, R&B, soul, funk, blues, jazz. Nice. The mainstream popular musicians that are gigging all around town don't really have difficulty getting gigs because everyone knows their names. What I'd like to do is provide a platform for the lesser-known musicians, is what she says. So there we go. That's the St. Lucie News Tribune this morning. Lizards and Disneyland. Thanks to everyone who's been chatting to us. Stacey, who's subscribed, and Steve's in Indiana. Hi, Steve. Just press the subscribe button to stick with this show. If you'd like to send me a message, then you can see me, and you can see me right now, and you're watching on an Echo Show or a Fire TV. The magic word is say. So wake up your device, whatever you call her, then use the word say, and then your message. And if you're just listening right now on an Echo speaker and you can't see me, just go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's the website, backchannel.tv, and do that right there. Okay, more newspapers for the rich and famous. The Miami Herald is next. This morning, the Miami Herald leads with Florida lawmakers move ahead with push to strip Disney of its special district. I mean, there's some sadness associated with this, really, isn't there? Because, it effectively is creating what's the word? It's creating a rift with the largest employer in the state, which is, I think, personally, I think is foolish. I just think it's foolish, It says the Florida legislature is moving swiftly to strip the Walt Disney Company of a series of unique legal protections that essentially give the company sweeping governmental powers. If the Republican-controlled legislature passes a proposal drafted and hastily debated this week, the Reedy Creek Improvement District, as well as 5 other special districts in the state, will be dissolved on June 1st, 2023. Disney, which employs more than 77,000 people in the state, would have the opportunity to negotiate with lawmakers about what the district might look like before that deadline. Also, war in Ukraine. Ukrainians offer a fallen fighter. This is people paying respects to the funeral of a Ukrainian serviceman, Vladimir Karas, who died during the fighting with Russian troops in Kiev. It's so rare to have seen a funeral. I haven't seen any funerals. All I've seen is people being buried in unmarked mass graves. It says the funeral on Wednesday came as another Russian deadline for Ukrainian forces to surrender the key port city of Mariupol passed without movement, and as Moscow's forces continued to pummel a broad swathe of the country's east. Russia's defense ministry announced it had successfully conducted the first test of a new intercontinental ballistic missile that Putin said is capable of overcoming all missile defense systems and will make those who try to threaten our country think twice. Well, that missile is actually not ready yet, just in case you're worried. They tested it, but it's not actually ready yet. Got a while yet. But what this new missile does is it has the capability to travel, in the test it traveled 3,700 miles. But you see, what people don't understand about Russia is uniquely positioned to be able to fire the missile over each pole. They can fire north and south. And the other thing is that this missile has got 10 decoys built in, and it evades radar and tracking devices. So if you fire it, 10 decoys means that if you send up a missile defense system to try and blow up the missile or intercept the missile, there are 10 potential decoys that will pop off of this to distract it. It's a very clever piece of equipment. So, Putin has every right to can't start waving it around. But I think people are starting to kind of, in Putin's camp, I think people now, the military, are starting to think, hang on a second, this guy's nuts. They're only just starting to think that. They're like, hang on a second, this guy's nuts. And you can understand that, can't you? Because, he seems to have no emotional empathy for the slaughter of thousands of people. So we're really seeing this guy's true colors now. He literally is a monster. What else do we have here? Under 18 and transgender, Florida says no to medical or social treatment for you. Lovely. What a lovely thing. What a wonderful place to live, In a move that goes against federal guidance, the Florida Department of Health on Wednesday released guidelines that advise against treatment of gender dysphoria for children and teenagers outside of counseling. The state's guidance recommends against gender-affirming treatment for people under the age of 18, including surgery as well as the prescription of hormone therapy or puberty blockers, which suppress the release of testosterone or estrogen. Florida's updated guidance also said social transition, things like using a different name, pronouns, style of dress, should not be a treatment option. Gender dysphoria is the stress an individual feels when their gender identity does not match the sex they were assigned at birth. I mean, there's just no reason for this, is there? There's no reason for it, other than prejudice and politics and just assuming, people assuming that the only way to appeal to the base of far-right Christian nationalists is to come up with this legislation that harms anybody who is not white, cisgender, and an evangelical Christian nationalist. That's the tragedy of this story. I tell you what I do want to talk about, I don't know, it's not on this paper, we'll probably come to it a little bit later, was the evacuation of the state capitol yesterday. And a total balls up. A total balls up. I mean, to say it was embarrassing is an understatement. It was so embarrassing. Do you know what happened, Carla? Do you hear about this? No, don't Google it. Let me tell you, it's hilarious. Even after the insurrection, where you would have thought security at the state capitol was like totally locked down, right? Even after an insurrection, they evacuated the entire capital yesterday because they said there was a plane heading for the capital and it was unidentified, and they were worried that it was going to be used, like on 9/11 with the Pentagon, crashing into the Capitol building. So they evacuate everybody, right? What was it? It was the military. It was parachutists from the military about to drop into a football stadium as a display. They were doing a display. And the Federal Aviation Authority failed to tell the Capitol Police that this aircraft was going to be dive bombing over their building to get to the stadium that was just a little down the street. And basically, everybody rushed out. It was a disaster. I mean, yeah. Nancy Pelosi was so embarrassed. She had to make a statement and say, we're going to do a full investigation as to who's at fault for this. I mean, it's just beggars belief that after something as dramatic as that, the insurrection, that there isn't now a system in place to protect the state capitol. This is proof that there is nothing in place to protect the state capitol. I mean, you could argue, it was great that they evacuated. But this was the government flying the plane. The government hadn't told the government. It's so embarrassing. These were just parachutists. Now I'm looking it up to look at the story, because now we're on it. Here we go. They're saying Nancy Pelosi says, it's so funny. Late Wednesday, Nancy Pelosi said the Federal Aviation Administration's failure to notify Capitol Police of a military parachuting demonstration was inexcusable after the miscommunication triggered an evacuation of the U.S. Capitol and surrounding buildings. They said that authorities were tracking an aircraft that poses a probable threat to the Capitol complex. The advisory was rescinded soon after, with officials saying there was no threat. The aircraft in question was reportedly being flown by the U.S. Army Golden Knights for that evening's Washington Nationals game. Members of the military group parachuted into Nationals Park, located little more than a mile from the Capitol, for Military Appreciation Night. Pelosi slammed the FAA for its apparent failure to inform Capitol Police of the pre-planned flyover at the stadium. She said the incident was particularly harmful for Capitol personnel who were still reeling from the January 6 attack on the complex. I mean, she said the unnecessary panic caused by this apparent negligence was particularly harmful for members, staff, and institutional workers still grappling with the trauma of the attack on their workplace. She said Congress is going to review the results of a thorough after-action review that determines what precisely went wrong and who at the FAA will be held accountable for the outrageous and frightening mistake. The FAA said it takes its role in protecting the national airspace seriously, adding that the agency will conduct a thorough and expeditious review of the events yesterday and share updates. We know our actions affect others, especially in our nation's capital region, and we must communicate early and often with our law enforcement partners. I mean, this has got to be an inside job, hasn't it? Think about it. This has got to be some kind of Trump appointee at the FAA saying, yes, well, yeah, maybe. I mean, the Capitol Police already, the boss of the Capitol Police got fired, do you remember, after the 2021 insurrection? The boss of the Capitol Police got replaced. And so they're going to have to replace the police officer again. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the FAA, I'll be honest, because, I feel very strongly about the cover-up that was involved with the Boeing 737 MAX aircraft that killed 346 people in 2 crashes. The Lion Air crash and the Indonesia crash. And, the FAA, all of the equivalents of the FAA around the world, they grounded the 737 MAX. And America didn't. The FAA didn't. Trump didn't. Because it turns out that Boeing and the FAA were in cahoots about the certification of that dangerous aircraft. And they've continued to do that. I mean, they've recertified it even now. And I personally wouldn't fly on one, but, that's just me. You do what you like, obviously. I mean, half the time people don't even know what plane they're getting on. But I fear that there is there is definitely a very negligent attitude at the FAA, and it all goes back to this kind of concept of freedom, I'm sure, Pelosi said today and every day, our congressional community is extraordinarily grateful for the heroism of our United States Capitol Police officers in ordering the evacuation of the Capitol and vigilantly monitoring for a potential aircraft threat. Our officers ensured the safety of all who work in these hallowed halls, and we thank them for their exemplary service. It's jokes, isn't it? It's just jokes. So that's kind of what happened yesterday. And I have a couple of friends that work, in Washington, and they they were just tweeting away about the craziness of all of this. Okay, let's see what's up next. Yes, a reminder that you're here on the Anthony Davis Show on Backchannel, and if you're enjoying the show, there's 2 ways to support the show, and that would really help us out. If you're watching right now and you see that subscribe button, click it. Just click it. Subscribing will let you know when we're going live, and also I've got some special plans coming up in the next few weeks for those of you who are subscribed. Another way you can really help us out, no matter where you're watching or listening, is leaving a review. So just go to backchannel.tv and leave a review, as your positive reviews keep this show going. So that's backchannel.tv and click leave a review. There you go. Okay, next up we have, did we do the Miami Herald next? Oh, we haven't done that yet. No, we did do the Miami Herald. Yeah, we did. Which story is that, Carla? The 911 call? The NFL one? This is Dwayne Haskins, the young Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback whose early morning death on a South Florida highway 2 weeks ago has remained shrouded in mystery, was apparently crossing the interstate to get gas for his car when he was struck by a vehicle, according to a 911 call from his wife that was released by investigators on Wednesday. Haskins, who was in South Florida practicing with his teammates during the off-season, was killed early in the morning of April 9 when a dump truck struck him near a median in the center of the westbound lane of the I-595, just west of the I-95. Said although the accident happened almost 2 weeks ago, investigators with the Florida Highway Patrol had remained, continues on page 5. But the point is, with this story, is that, I mean, this is one of those tragic stories where, the man tries to rescue the girl, Don't worry, you stay here, I'm going to go get gas. And never comes back. That is really the tragedy of this. Yeah. Yeah, he was only 24 years of age. Super talented. This is why he was walking along the highway before he was killed. His car had run out of gas. Okay. Oh, Stacey's saying you can also leave a review on the Amazon Alexa app. Yes, I think you can do that, so go for it. Yeah, I'm just looking at that now. Amazing. Okay, let's move on to something else that we might have that we can look for. Oh yeah, the Los Angeles Times. What a great choice we have here. Okay, the LA Times. They lead with teacher shortage forces staffing stopgap is the headline there. That's very interesting. With less than 2 months left in the school, what's it say? Yes. In the school year, many of the Los Angeles Unified highest needs campuses remain significantly understaffed, impending academic recovery and prompting Superintendent Alberto Carvalho to redeploy personnel who hold teaching credentials back to the classroom. The district's teacher shortage, a deepening problem in California and nationwide, has hit hardest at schools in parts of South LA and other several low-income neighborhoods. According to a report by the Partnership for Los Angeles Schools, a non-profit group that manages schools in underserved communities, fueled by a record $20 billion pandemic aid enhanced budget this year. LA Unified has promised hiring spree unseen since the late 1990s, with thousands of new teachers, counselors, and other workers who would help lift students from struggles after a year of distance learning and pandemic hardships. It's very interesting, isn't it? I've always thought this about public schools. You run a risk with a public school, don't you? You just don't know what's happening. And then people genuinely move from location to location. I mean, we moved to a better district to get a better school, a better public school for the kids. But fundamentally, education across the United States is completely different. Look at Florida. They're throwing out maths books now because they think they're racist. So, how do you qualify what is a good school and a not a good school? In my view, it's just down to teachers. It's not about the textbook. It's just teachers. And the teacher shortage has meant that LA is basically funding. LA is very well funded, but they're putting $20 billion from the pandemic budget into finding new teachers and recruiting new teachers. And I think, that's the best thing you can do, really, for the education of a child. Excuse me. A photograph, very tragic photograph from the front of the LA Times of Ukrainians cling to Mariupol. And a photo that I don't even really want to describe, but it's, image. I mean, I don't even know how they're allowed to print photos of dead people. It's just very sad to me. Humans are wonderful when they have life. But the moment you take a life from a human, the corpse is really not a nice thing to look at. We don't sit in a very comfortable position when we are lifeless. Our mouths naturally hang open. It's really not pretty. The dead are so many, it says, and they are everywhere. A son found lying with his hands folded beneath his cheek as if sleeping. People run over by Russian armoured vehicles, their mangled remains pulled from a mass grave. A woman's corpse covered only by a thin nightgown that offered no scrim of dignity. It says, in the brutal landscape that were once placid and prosperous suburbs and satellite towns near the Ukrainian capital, Kiev, investigators struggle daily to document evidence of mass atrocities against the people who once lived there. Because the dead, in their way, can speak. They work painstakingly. These caretakers and curators, these examiners and searchers who are affording the most meticulous care to this scatter of carnage for the sake of knowledge to bring the perpetrators to justice, perhaps. But I mean, it's also, to give some closure to the families. It's not just gathering evidence for war crimes. It's also to be able to communicate to the families of these people that, these remains were discovered. Because I think there's going to be an awful lot of people who just know nothing of what happened to their relatives. People who were literally disappeared by the Russian military. Another story, holdouts say they face last days as Russia steps up its assault. This is Russia on Wednesday night aimed its grip around Ukraine's last stronghold in the besieged port of Mariupol, whose desperate defenders holed up in underground shelters beneath a massive steel plant, pleaded for international help, declaring they were probably facing our last days, if not ours. Along hundreds of miles of a scythe-shaped battlefront in Ukraine's east, the din of Russian bombardment echoed in cities and towns, while Moscow's ground forces made a series of what Ukrainian military officials described as probing attacks that did not yield any substantial new territorial gains. With the war about to grind into a ninth week and Western powers racing to supply Ukraine with heavier weapons, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in a video address to the nation that nearly all of Russia's combat-ready forces were concentrated on the site of Mariupol. Not on Mariupol, of the east. This is the Donbass region, which, of course, I have predicted that Russia will probably end up taking and keeping for themselves, and converting to a Russian territory, moving the border, just so that Vladimir Putin can claim that he has a victory. Because he really, pride is a huge part of the old Putin plan. And if he says he's going to do something, he wants to prove to his people that he's done it. Who cares for the worst off? Earlier this month, with much fanfare, Los Angeles officials announced a partial settlement of a 2-year federal lawsuit over homelessness. The city pledged to create housing, either permanent or interim, for 60% of the city's unsheltered homeless population. Lawyers representing LA Alliance for Human Rights, the group that filed the lawsuit, endorsed the agreement. City, county at odds on homelessness responsibilities. So it seems like, nobody wants to be the one responsible. And Eric Garcetti is there at City Hall. I thought he'd already been posted off to India. This is the mayor, Eric Garcetti. He, had been given the job by Joe Biden to go and be the Indian ambassador, I think. So he's obviously had to come back for this court case. Maximum fine for rust safety failures. This is an interesting story. A New Mexico agency delivered a stinging rebuke of the managers behind the rust production, levying its maximum fine of $136,000 for safety violations that led to the death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins in October, saying managers demonstrated plain indifference to employee safety. The agency concluded the management of the production knew that firearms safety procedures were not being followed on set and failed to review work practices and take corrective action, the New Mexico Environment Department's Occupational Health and Safety Bureau said in a statement on Wednesday. I actually visited the grave of Helena Hutchins recently. I went for a stroll in the cemetery here in Hollywood, and her grave was a new gravestone, with a literally freshly laid. And I stood for a moment because I was surprised to see it there, And now it was very interesting actually that she's been given this place because the Hollywood Forever Cemetery is huge, but they've actually given her a place right on the main walkway as you enter to remind people of this tragic death. I'm sure it was no coincidence that she's not like hidden somewhere off in the amongst the trees as many of the new gravestones are. They made a space for her right at the front of the main walkway to remind visitors of this young cinematographer who was shot and killed by the actor Alec Baldwin. Not intentionally. He fired a gun that was not safe. He says he didn't pull the trigger. He said the gun just went off. But this gun was on the set of this movie Rust, along with a whole bunch of other firearms. And after the investigation, it's clear that the armorist was inexperienced. She was a young female herself. And that some people had been playing with these guns and messing around with the guns, and there was live ammunition had got mixed up with blanks. I mean, think about all of these failures that could happen on a film set. So the agency has cited plain indifference to rules in the cinematographer's death in New Mexico. And Helena Hutchins had a whole career ahead of her. I mean, she really was. She was a young, beautiful young woman. And because invariably the gun is like fired into the camera, she was behind the camera. To get that infamous shot of the gun like into the camera. She bore the brunt of that. Now, obviously, for Alec Baldwin, this is devastating. But the twist, because normally, you would be, if you're an actor, you're handed an imitation firearm or a firearm that fires blanks, and there is a code. The armorist would shout, I forget what the phrase is. I think it might be like clean gun or something like that. There's a phrase that you shout out aloud on the set. It's a language that's part of the movie making business. And I don't know the details on this. I'm not going to make it up, but he was under the impression that he was holding a safe weapon. But the twist in this is that Alec Baldwin is a producer of this film. Is the major producer of this film, and therefore he himself has to take responsibility for what happened, for failing to follow proper, the proper rules and the regulations associated with this. I guess we have to wait for the investigation, don't we? Yes, the grave of Helena Hutchins is, obviously, a reminder in the Hollywood Forever Cemetery that this event should never be repeated. And I think, this is now really going to set a precedent, hopefully. Because this is what happens in America. I'm discovering this. I mean, not just in America. It happens in the UK as well. But I mean, something tragic has to happen for people to change the rules. Now, this show here on Backchannel is live right now, the Anthony Davis Show. We're here every weekday, Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. Pacific. That's 12 o'clock Eastern. And you can send me a message if you can see me right now and you're watching on an Echo Show or a Fire TV. The magic word is say. So wake her up and say the word say and then your message. If you're listening right now on an Echo speaker, that you can, one that you can't see me on, then just go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's backchannel.tv, and you can jump in there and we can chat to each other in a very naturalistic fashion. Nonchalant Chipmunk has joined us. Press the subscribe button, Nonchalant. I'm just using your first name now because we're close enough. That's in the bottom left-hand corner of your Echo Show. Hit the subscribe button. Rampant Hamster is listening in. Acceptable Porcupine has joined us as well. Welcome. And Orange Eel is here too. Carmela's in Wisconsin. Hello, Carmela. Welcome to Backchannel. You too, feel free to hit the subscribe button in the bottom left corner of your screen. Orange Eel, Kathy is here. Sherry and Andrea in Florida. We got somebody listening in New York. WBLS. Sounds like a radio station, doesn't it? WBLS New York. Rosalind is in as well. Scattered Tiger, thank you very much for joining us here on Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. We're just looking through some of the morning papers. We just did the LA Times. So let's jump now to the Desert Sun whilst we stay in California. They lead with state bounty hunters license bill advances. Yes, legislation clears 2 assembly committees with bipartisan support. A bill that would require bounty hunters working in California to be licensed passed through 2 state assembly committees this week, garnering support from both sides of the aisle as it picks up steam in this legislature. The bill, AB 2043, received support on Tuesday in the Assembly Public Safety Committee, with 5 members voting in favor and 2 committee members not voting. It passed the Assembly Insurance Committee on Wednesday. What's up, Carla? Oh, yeah. I mean, this is how Boba Fett got his license. The chair of the Public Safety Committee, who authored the bill, shared the story of the fatal shooting of David Spann last year in Palm Springs to underscore why he believes the bounty hunter regulation is critical. Bounty hunters currently self-regulate while they have greater authority than law enforcement by not requiring a warrant to arrest and enter someone's home. Oh man, I mean, only in America, 2 things, Scientology and bounty hunting, could only exist in America, Okay, let's scroll down a little bit. Sweet Pesach is the headline here. Congressional educator Talina Leesma-Hawley greets Holocaust survivor Erica Fien during a Passover Seder at Temple Sinai in Palm Desert on Wednesday. It's lovely, isn't it? Do you know, the interesting thing about, for me, culturally moving from England to America is that in England, you would never have a reference to Judaism on the front of a newspaper in celebration, like a local newspaper like this. I would say that England is a very anti-Semitic country, and, Jews are better out of sight, and would you agree with this, Carla? You would never see a story like about Passover and on the front of a local newspaper in England. England claims to be a Christian country, but it's a very secular country, in fact. But minority groups, especially Jews, tend to kind of operate in the shadows. unless you go to kind of ghettoized areas where there's like large Jewish communities. But then they'll have their own newspapers and their own police force and their own ambulance service, you know? It's very interesting to me that here in America, there is, especially in California, which is where this newspaper is from, there's a lot of Jewish people in California, you know, especially in Palm Springs and the like. But to see a celebration of a minority faith, especially a festival like this. I mean, weirdly, in England and in London, there's more of a celebration of like Eid and what's the other one? Ramadan. Yeah. So there'll be more celebrations for those because there are more of those people. But I think Jews in England, you can look this up, Carla, but I think Jews in England represent 0.03% of the population. 0.03% of the population are Jews in the United Kingdom. And it's such a small group, whereas I guess in California, it'd be interesting to know what the difference is. I suppose you're only reacting to your... But I always felt that it was more about, you know, culturally, just, I don't know, I just think there is fundamentally a prejudice in the UK towards the Jewish faith. I mean, there's definitely a prejudice across, you know, the evangelical Christian nationalist group. You know, they're often criticizing Jews in America, claiming that they, you know, run the entertainment business or, you know, that type of thing. Am I right? Is it 0.02 or 0.03% of the UK? The Jews are a very small percentage. So this is just an observation, really. Just the idea that, you know, I move from England, London to California, and I see different faith groups represented in different ways. And that's very interesting to me. To see that here in LA, certainly, Jews do not hide in the shadows. But what's the percentage in the United Kingdom? I mean, even if it's, I thought it was tiny. I thought it was a tiny percentage. Carla's saying that Israel has the most Jews, and then followed by the United States and Canada and France and the like. 0.3 or 0.03? 0.3. 0.3. Yeah, 0.3. Yeah, so I was right. I just had an extra zero in there. But fundamentally, this is a tiny, tiny percentage. And then tell me what the United States percentage is. That would be interesting to see. Because, you know, I just get the feeling that we take for granted the way that culture, faith, religion, minority groups are split in different countries. Oh, in America, it's 2.4. That's interesting, isn't it? That's a big difference. So there's basically, if it's 2.4 versus 0.3, there's basically something like 30 times more Jews in America than there are in England. I mean, that's quite a big difference, you know? Wow. So over 5 million Jews in America and not even 300,000 in the UK. So you know, there it is. That's what we're... And that's why it's interesting to me to see a newspaper like the Desert Sun and see a celebration of Passover on the front page. I mean, I know there's a Holocaust survivor here, and, you know, that's obviously something that's very important for everybody to be represented or understand the representation of. Group helps those with disabilities to navigate and enjoy the music festivals. This is anyone who attends the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival or the Stagecoach Country Music Festival knows it's difficult to get around the site. And for disabled patrons, it can be even more challenging. Austin Whitney, the founder and board president of Accessible Festivals, has for years navigated around dirt parking lots and through oblivious crowds in a wheelchair, the result of a near-fatal accident when he was 18 that severed his spinal cord and paralyzed him from the waist down. The non-profit organization partners with Los Angeles promoter Golden Voice to assist disabled pass holders, the group which provides services to the blind and deaf, those in wheelchairs or suffering from physical ailments and diseases, and more. Its staff also manages the viewing platforms at every stage and provides transportation from the parking areas to the security gate. So that's good, isn't it? This non-profit which has helped a record 746 people so far at Coachella. Decoy shells aim to save tortoises from ravens. Oh, this is interesting. It says in a video captured last year in Victorville, a raven can be seen pecking at a shell on the desert floor. With scrub brush and electric transmission towers in the background, 3 other ravens stand nearby and watch with curiosity. Without warning, the shell hisses, emitting a spray that sends the birds flying. I got to get me one of these. The desert tortoise learn a new defense mechanism to fend off one of the biggest predators. Not quite? No. It's one company hoping their invention will make ravens think twice before daring to mess with what they think is a defenseless reptile. The booby-trap shell was a techno tortoise, a 3D printed model designed to look like a baby desert tortoise that was developed by Hard Shell Labs, a company founded by Tim Shields. I love that his name is Shield. He's a wildlife biologist with more than 35 years' experience. I mean, I love that it's 3D printed for a start, but secondly, and it looks exactly like a regular tortoise. You couldn't tell the difference, apart from the fact that it doesn't have a head sticking out. But I might get myself one of these decoyed tortoises and just put it in the living room, you know, just to prevent my kids from putting their feet on the sofa. Just get squirted every now and then, you know, emitting a spray that sends them flying, just like the birds. Most Americans say they want masks during travel. Yes, the majority of Americans still support a mask requirement for people traveling on airplanes and other shared transportation. This is according to a Associated Press Nork Center for Public Affairs research poll. Despite the Trump-appointed federal judge that has put the government's mask mandate on hold. You see, this is what I mean. It's like the public don't have an appetite for removing the mask mandate on public transportation. This has just been done by a Trump-appointed judge with no experience, you know, not experienced enough for this role as a federal judge, who has now caused total chaos in the travel industry. That's basically what's happened. I mean, did you hear the story about the Delta pilot yesterday? This was a very interesting story. Oh, yes. A Delta Airlines pilot said to a guy, when the guy was walking towards the aircraft, why don't you take that thing off and breathe freely, right? Well, it turns out that the guy that he told to take the mask off was a politician. Let's just look it up, because it's quite an interesting story, and I don't want to get the details wrong. Delta pilot, I'll search. Here we go. Well, that was a different pilot. Yeah, there's been a lot of pilots that have kind of caused a lot of trouble over this, you know, and Delta have been having to do a real kind of backtracking PR exercise yesterday. Yeah, I can't see this story. Maybe it didn't make the news. I saw it on Twitter, but I wonder if I can find it. Do a little bit of searching here. Who doesn't love a little live search? Oh, it's 10 o'clock. That means we should do the US news update. Why don't we do that while I find this story? It's a daily podcast that I do for the Volley Network, which you can download wherever you get your podcasts. Here it is. It's Thursday, April 21. From the Volley Network, this is your daily US news update. I'm Alice. The US Justice Department on Wednesday appealed a judge's ruling ending a mask mandate on public transportation and aeroplanes after the CDC said the measure was still needed. A US district judge ruled on Monday that the mandates, which applies to planes, trains and other public transportation, were unlawful. The Justice Department said it would appeal the ruling if the CDC determined the 14-month-old mandate was still needed. The Justice Department filed notice appealing the ruling to the 11th Circuit Court, but did not detail if it intended to seek emergency order to reinstate the requirement or detail the grounds for the appeal. It applied to planes, trains, rideshare vehicles and other public transportation, and prior to Monday's ruling had been due to expire on May 3rd. Meanwhile, aircraft from the US Army's Golden Knights parachute demonstration team sparked a security scare at the US Capitol on Wednesday during a performance over the nearby Washington Nationals baseball stadium, prompting an evacuation of halls of Congress. U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi called the security alarm an outrageous and frightening mistake by the FAA for failing to notify the Capitol Police of the pre-parachute demonstration. She said Congress would examine the results of a review into the incident to determine what went wrong. The U.S. Capitol Police first said they were tracking an aircraft that posed a probable threat to the Capitol complex, and then minutes later said there was no threat and that the building had been evacuated out of an abundance of caution. Your daily US news update is part of the Volley Network. To hear my live daily morning show, ask your Amazon Echo device to open Backchannel. There it is, the US News Update. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Anthony Davis. This is The Anthony Davis Show, live here on Backchannel. We're here every weekday, Monday through Friday, between 9 a.m. Pacific and, that's 12 o'clock Eastern, isn't it? And 9 and 11. Send me a message if you can see me right now and you're watching on an Echo show or a Fire TV. The wake-up word followed by the magic word, which is say. So just wake it up, then say the word say, and then hello, whatever your message is. And if you're listening right now on an Echo speaker and you can't see me, please go to backchannel.tv and join the chat. That's backchannel.tv and message me there as well. So let's see who's on the chat right now. Hi to Keshav, first time on the show in Maryland. Welcome. Great to see you here on Backchannel. You're listening, so if you want to message me, you can do that easily. Just go to backchannel.tv on your browser. Who else do we have? Ashley's popped in from Pennsylvania. Hello, Ashley. Don't forget to hit subscribe in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. First Hair is listening in. Tremendous Goose is here as well. And lots of no names. If you want to give your name, then you're welcome to. If not, that's fine. You can also make up a name. If you want to change your name, then just ask your Echo device to change the name. And Stacey says, here in America, Jews are not afraid to show themselves. Well, yeah, maybe that is the difference. We've been talking about like cross-culture, my experience growing up in England and how, you know, Jews tend to kind of hide and there's not so much kind of outward celebration of the Jewish religion as there is here in America. And I guess it's all down to representation and down to the sheer numbers. And we discovered that, there's 300,000 Jews in the UK versus 5.7 million here in the United States. Khaki Sloth has joined us as well. Andrea, Carmela, Nonchalant Chipmunk is watching. Nonchalant, just hit the subscribe button if you'd care to. Acceptable Porcupine is in as well, and Rampant Hamster, Orange Eel, and Kathy. So thank you, all of you, for joining us here on Backchannel. Okay, let's go back to some more of the stories that we've been looking at. We've been looking at the Desert Sun for California. Let's stay in California with the Mercury News. Heron rescue team on the lookout for fallen birds. Yes, Oakland Zoo team patrols the city streets looking for black-crowned night herons and snowy egrets that have fallen from their urban nests. Ultimatum ignored as attacks intensify. This is Russia pressuring Mariupol. Defenders resist demands to surrender, warn of our last days. This is very interesting, isn't it? Because Putin and the Russian military, they basically gave a deadline for surrender. The Ukrainians haven't surrendered. And now Russia is tightening its grip around Ukraine's last stronghold in the besieged port of Mariupol, whose desperate defenders, holed up in underground shelters beneath a massive steel plant, pleaded for international help, declaring they were probably facing our last days, if not ours. Along hundreds of miles of a scythe-shaped battlefront in Ukraine's east, the din of Russia's bombardment echoed in cities and towns, while Moscow's ground forces made a series of what Ukrainian military officials described as probing attacks that did not yield any substantial new territory gains. With the war about to grind into a ninth week and Western powers racing to supply Ukraine with heavier weapons, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in a video address to the nation that nearly all of Russia's combat-ready forces were concentrated on the territory of our state, and just outside its borders, Moscow, he said, was deploying almost everyone and everything that is capable of fighting. So, I mean, I do worry because I just cannot see how Ukraine is going to, even though Russia is not as an advanced military like Ukraine, the Ukrainian military has actually been trained by the Americans. You know that? The Ukrainian military is very well trained by the Americans. And, this was all done as part of because they've been fighting for 8 years. They've been fighting separatists in the Donbass and various areas. And the separatists are fundamentally Russians that are, paid for by the Kremlin. And so the training, is such that it just means that, the Ukrainians have a lot of experience in fighting. The Russian military less so. So it's just something to consider. Non-removable electronic wristbands proposed for inmates is another story. It's kind of an interesting one. It says, where is it? Here we go. Santa Clara County inmates may soon be forced to wear non-removable electronic wristbands that would track their movements inside jail under a sheriff's department proposal that is drawing skepticism among advocates of civil liberties. But the department calls its proposal a vast improvement to the current tracking method. Inmates now wear the standard identification wristbands, and their movements are tracked by a paper system that sheriff officials describe as a time-intensive and prone to error scheme, making it difficult to abide by consent decrees in the county. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that they would be switching finally to an electronic system. I mean, come on. Well, you can just give the inmates an AirTag to wear. It's $30 from the Apple Store. Just stick one in their pocket. It's not difficult. Isn't it funny when consumer tech kind of almost outweighs the civic tech, the tech that governments have invested in. I just find that very interesting, personally. Okay, let's move on a little here. Let's see what else we have. 49ers pump $300,000 into political action committee to support Chavez's bid for mayor. This is a sign that the San Francisco 49ers are trying to expand their political influence in Silicon Valley. The team has poured $300,000 into an independent fundraising committee established to support the campaign of San Jose mayoral candidate Cindy Chavez. Earlier this month, the 49ers and the DeBartolo Corporation, which owns the football team that plays at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, created the Citizens for Cindy Chavez Mayor 2022 Political Action Committee. 49ers spokesman Rachel Shandok, who confirmed the team's initial donation to the committee, said in a statement, the team and its executives were proud to support Chavez as the first Latina mayor of San Jose. Well, how is it possible that San Jose has not had a Latina mayor? It's San Jose, for goodness sake. You know? I mean, this is the craziness. So that's how the Mercury News presents itself. Oh, Laurie's just dropped in. Hi, Laurie. Welcome. Tane as well. Special Beaver is here. Fiery Bee, Mint Elephant, Automatic Parrot. Welcome to Backchannel. Press the subscribe button in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen if you're watching on an Echo show. Be my guest. Okay, let's go to Colorado next and the Gazette. They lead this morning with wildfire ignites in Monte Vista. Residents of more than 100 homes forced to evacuate. Structures damaged and lost. It says an unknown number of structures were damaged and lost after a fire ignited in the modern Colorado city of Monte Vista on Wednesday afternoon. Legislature okays insurance expansions for wildfire losses. Proposed changes would only apply to future blazes declared as fire disasters, is the headline. And also, panel hears emotional accounts of fentanyl's toll. Yeah, the fentanyl crisis, it says, was personal for people who attended a town hall on Wednesday evening. They said it's killing kids. We want to figure out a way to bring this message to the students, said Mark Guthmiller, a school psychologist for Sand Creek High School. It isn't going out in the country, drinking a few beers, having a few laughs. This is something that could kill you. I mean, the other problem is that fentanyl's now being mixed with cocaine. And so people don't know, when they're accessing cocaine, they don't understand that it actually has now fentanyl in there, and that's killing people, as we've discovered recently. And finally, judge denies restraining order in alleged voter intimidation. A federal judge has declined to issue a temporary restraining order after finding no imminent threat from a group who allegedly interrogated and intimidated Colorado voters at their homes, including while armed. You know? It says U.S. District Judge Philip Brimmer rejected a request from 3 civic organizations to temporarily block the U.S. election integrity plan, a group that believes the 2020 election was rigged. From going door to door to questioning voters about mail ballots and the like. So that's very interesting, isn't it? That this kind of legal battle still goes on regarding the election. A reminder that we are live here on Backchannel, and we're here every weekday, Monday through Friday, from 9 o'clock Pacific, that's 12 o'clock Eastern. And you can send me a message. If you can see me right now and you're watching on an Echo show or a Fire TV, just wake up your device and say the magic word, which is say. So if you're listening, just listening right now on a speaker, an Echo speaker, and you can't see me, well, go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's backchannel.tv and join the chat there. And also a reminder that you can subscribe if you've got your Echo Show device. If you're looking at your Echo Show, in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you'll see the word subscribe. Just hit that, and then you'll get reminders about this show if you are enjoying it. And you can also leave a review at backchannel.tv. Joyce has joined us from Maryland. Hello, Joyce. Welcome. Laurie's here as well. Tane, Special Beaver, Fiery Bee, Mint Elephant, and Automatic Parrot. All joining us in the chat, and you can chat to me, chat to each other, and kind of chat about what we're chatting about, if you like. We've been looking through the morning papers. We've been in Colorado. Let's go to the Durango Herald next. And they have a photograph of a police officer flying a drone. His name is Dan Kellermeyer. He's flying the Durango Police Department drone at the Three Springs substation. The drone cost between $5,000 and $6,000 and has already been used to help find 2 men suspected of beating and robbing their girlfriends. They're using a Mavic 2 Enterprise. That's the name of the drone. The Mavic is like one of the best drones you can get, I think. And you can buy a Mavic for about $1,000 or $2,000, but this one here, the Mavic 2 Enterprise, looks like it's the super duper one. They're calling it the Eye in the Sky. 2 Arizona men suspected of beating and robbing their girlfriends earlier this month in South Durango were caught with the help of a drone, the new tool in the Durango Police Department's crime-fighting arsenal. The 2-pound device is equipped with a zoom camera, thermal imaging camera for nighttime searches. Accessories include a loudspeaker and searchlights. The drone can be used for a number of applications, including finding criminal suspects, helping reconstruct traffic crashes, searching for lost children or Alzheimer's patients, and giving a bird's-eye view of a potentially dangerous situation, such as a fire or a standoff. Have you noticed how drones are used in everything now? If you watch any documentary, they always seem to start with a kind of drone tracking shot, and those types of shots were normally out of the budget of most documentaries, because you would have to get a crane, on a cherry picker, and you would have to send a crew up there, and it was a very expensive process. Now the drone, even a cheaper $1,000 drone, can still capture high-definition pictures, and you see them now in all documentaries, and it's so interesting to me about how this technology has been kind of really kind of grasped by the television industry, and also people's vlogs and blogs, and it's everywhere. Oh, that's right. When they were filming Star Wars, and there was drones flying over, and the drone operators were trying to work out what was going on the sets, and the Star Wars people were pretty furious about that. Yeah, I remember that story. There's also ongoing stories about drones flying near airports and causing problems for air traffic. So there's pros and cons to the drones, and then you've got deliveries now coming with drones. I'm still yet to receive a delivery from a drone. I would love that to happen. Oh, that's right. There was a story about defibrillators being dropped off. Yeah, I think it was if someone was having a heart attack, where they were hiking or halfway up a mountain or something, the drone was sending a defibrillator to them because it was quicker, Yeah. Okay, let's go to the Hartford Courant next. A trooper charged with manslaughter. Connecticut State Police officer accused in deadly shooting of Merbank Sulmain in 2020. Yes, they said, let this arrest set the example, civil rights attorney said. This is the state trooper who investigators say fatally shot a 19-year-old driver after a high-speed chase into West Haven 2 years ago. Has been arrested on a manslaughter charge. His name's Brian D. North. He was charged with first-degree manslaughter with a firearm. Inspector General Robert J. Devlin Jr. said on Wednesday he turned himself in at the Troop 1 barracks in Bethany at about 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday and posted a $50,000 bond. Mubarak Sulmain, who was 19, was fatally shot at the end of a high-speed chase in a stolen car. Footage from the scene shows troopers and a West Haven police officer descend on the car after it was stopped off exit 43 on Interstate 95 and blocked by police cars. A video of the shooting shows North firing into the car after the trooper allegedly saw Sulmain with a knife. In his report, Devlin concludes that neither North nor 2 other officers outside the car were in imminent danger of having deadly force used against them. He added that due to the police car blocking his door, Sulmain would not have been able to get out. And although Sulmain held a knife in his right hand, he was not using the knife against them, nor presenting any imminent threat to do so. I mean, this is really the same story over and over again, isn't it? It's like a police officer taking advantage of a young black man and executing him for a crime that is worthy only of a fine or a short prison sentence. You know, it's like, why should the police officer decide that this person should be executed? You know, executions are illegal in some states, and certainly in many places around the world, certainly where I'm from, they don't execute anybody. They haven't for years. So why should a solitary police officer make that decision that a young man should die because of this? You know, if the police are chasing you in a car, I understand it's bad. I understand that it's wrong. I recognize that you should be punished. But you should be punished by going to court. And you should be punished by a judge or a jury finding you guilty and an appropriate sentence being passed down, not by being murdered. And this happens all the time, and it happened last week with Patrick Ayola as well. Just executed for a traffic stop. The State Police Union extended condolences to Solmane's family in a statement on Wednesday and said no Connecticut state trooper ever intends to or has the desire to take the life of another human. Well, I don't think that's true. I personally don't. It's no coincidence that dozens of white police officers have shot and killed black suspects. So that statement by the police union is just not true. And then more coverage of this report: use of deadly force not justified. Yeah, I mean, it's just... it doesn't surprise me that we're reading these stories time and time again, but this is the reality of growing up black in America, is that you just run the risk that you might get shot by the police. Russian forces step up attack on Mariupol. Moscow reports ICBM test mounts attack in East region, as we've been discussing with other newspapers this morning. And Supreme Court finds loophole in state gun law, also on the front of the Hartford Courant this morning. It says the state court has ruled that an out-of-state drug conviction can't prevent someone from obtaining a pistol permit in Connecticut. The court released the decision on Wednesday in the case of a Stratford man who had been denied a permit based on a misdemeanor drug conviction years earlier in New York. And had the applicant for the permit been convicted of a similar non-felony crime in Connecticut, the permit would have been denied under state law establishing fitness requirements for gun owners. So there we are. That's how the morning papers look this morning. A reminder that Backchannel has a growing list of shows, including Haley and Allison, their Good Morning show. Start your morning from 3 a.m. Pacific, that's 6 o'clock Eastern, with 2 hours of silly fun and games. Haley and Allison and producer Will have trivia as well as the answers to your burning questions and the news you might have missed. And then they're followed by Live Every Day with Liv Harrison from 5 o'clock Pacific, that's 7 a.m. Eastern. You can join Liv every Monday, Wednesday and Friday morning to celebrate the little things in life in an extraordinary way. Candid conversations, lots of laughs, and plenty of coffee will fuel you and encourage you to live every day. And then on air just before me is Get On Up with Jam and Renee. Wake up on the West Coast with Community and Conscious Living. Jam and Renee have it all covered, from what people think to who's wearing what, and you'll leave entertained and enlightened every day, and you'll learn how to pay it all forward. So, something to look forward to tomorrow morning, of course. And throughout the day, 12 hours of every day, you'll find hosts here on Backchannel, on your Echo show, or however you access your Backchannel. Okay, we're going to jump into this story of the Republican leaders furious at Trump after January 6. This is details emerging of Republicans saying, "I've had it with this guy. What he did was unacceptable. Nobody can defend that, and nobody should defend it." Yes, Republican leaders wanted to see then President Trump impeached after the deadly January 6 riot at the Capitol and the overturning of the election, and spoke openly behind the scenes about their hopes for him to be ousted from politics, according to a new report. This was Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, saying, "I've had it with this guy." This is according to a new book, "This Will Not Pass: Trump, Biden, and the Battle for America's Future." And it's a very interesting story because, of course, publicly, Kevin McCarthy is not saying this now. And Mitch McConnell is not saying this now. And all of those senators who kind of denounced Trump as their main man are now all back supporting him again. All of them. In a new report from the New York Times, the reporting for which comes from this book, it details private conversations that McCarthy and McConnell had with colleagues, revealing the extent of their anger towards Trump. The leaders floated the idea of impeachment with their colleagues, though both men ultimately voted against holding Trump responsible in Democratic-led impeachment proceedings. On a phone call with several top House Republicans, McCarthy allegedly said that Trump had been atrocious and totally wrong, and blamed him for inciting people. He inquired about invoking the 25th Amendment, which involves the removal of a president from office. McCarthy, the book reports, went on to tell colleagues that his plan was to tell Trump to resign. What he did was unacceptable. Nobody can defend it, and nobody should defend it, he said. Other top Republicans chimed in, supporting the idea of moving away from Trump, including Steve Scalise of Louisiana, who said the party should think of a post-Trump Republican House, and Tom Emmer of Minnesota, who brought up the possibility of censuring the president. Scalise and Emmer voted against Trump's impeachment. I mean, this is the irony, isn't it? That the impeachment should have come from the Republicans, and it didn't. Because it came from the Democrats, they all voted against it. Not a single, I think, no, actually, that's not true. There was 3 or 4, or maybe 7 Republicans that voted for Trump's impeachment. You know, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, and Mitt Romney, I think, was one of them as well. McCarthy also spoke of his wish that the big tech companies would deplatform Republican lawmakers, as Twitter and Facebook did with Trump following the insurrection, who had also played a role in stoking the insurrection. We can't put up with that, McCarthy said. They can't take their Twitter accounts away too. Or can't they take their Twitter accounts away too? A spokesman for McCarthy told the New York Times that McCarthy never said that particular members should be removed from Twitter. I mean, McCarthy is one of the slipperiest figures that I've ever seen, really, I'll be honest. You know, he really is a very weird, partisan, politically, what's the word? He's a very shrewd, politically shrewd individual. You know, the fact that he can lie so overtly and not care about the fact that the first time he said something was recorded on video, and now he'll just claim that he never said it. And it's on video. I mean, I just don't understand that. Like, this is the brazen attitude of some of these people. They don't care for history. It's all about now and the moment now, because they think of the news cycle as this kind of 24-hour rolling news service. And so even though stuff was recorded, they don't care for what they said before. They're like, I don't care what I said before. It's what I say now that matters. I mean, Lindsey Graham, famously, do you remember he got up in the Senate and he goes, okay, I'm done. That's it. You know, he said those words. Time's up. I've had it with this guy. I've tried it with him. You know, he's gone too far this time. I'm never having anything to do with him anymore. That's what he said about Trump. Now, Lindsey Graham is another Trump surrogate, supporting Trump, loving Trump, celebrating Trump, and promoting Trump. And, you know, I mean, when it was like a year and a half ago. Mitch McConnell met with 2 longtime advisors over lunch in Kentucky on the 11th of January, 5 days after the insurrection. He spoke to the men about the upcoming impeachment proceedings led by the Democrats. The Democrats are going to take care of the son of a bitch for us, McConnell said. If this isn't impeachable, I don't know what is. That's a quote, by the way. Several senior Republican senators believe that McConnell was leaning towards impeachment once the proceedings would get to the Senate. The Democratic Senate leader, Chuck Schumer, told associates he believed McConnell's frustration with Trump could push him towards impeachment, but said, I don't trust him and I would not count on it. I mean, I saw McConnell being interviewed the other day and, you know, he was asked about this kind of switching that he does. And he said, look, you know, I'm the minority leader. You know, if Trump is going to be our candidate, then I have to support him. He said, that's my job. It's not my job to choose who the candidate's going to be. It's my job to support the candidate that's selected. And again, just like brushing off any responsibility. And the saddest part of this whole story is that, the United States of America is who suffers. Not the Republicans or the Democrats. It's the United States of America. It's the whole country that suffers if a president is not held accountable for overturning an election illegally. The whole country suffers. It loses its fundamental democracy. That is fundamental in America. And everybody should care about that. I mean, a Republican governor yesterday, actually I think it was a Republican congressman, announced, he said, we don't care. He says something like, we don't care for democracy anymore. He actually said that out loud. We don't care for democracy anymore. And then he said something else. I can't remember what he said, but it was just that bit that stuck with me. It was that finally the Republicans are admitting that democracy is actually not something that's important to them. And you know why, in my view? Because democracy is the same word as Democrat. And so they feel that democracy should be exclusive to Democrats. And that Republicans can't support democracy because that would be like supporting Democrats. That's how divided America has become now. At the special House panel investigating the January 6th attack, as they prepare to hold public hearings next month, McCarthy has denounced the committee's investigation, refusing to cooperate with its inquiry on conversations the leader had with Trump in the days after the attack. McConnell, meanwhile, has taken a more supportive stance on the committee, saying that he believes their investigation is something the public needs to know. Still, the Senate Minority Leader said he would absolutely support Trump if he was the Republican presidential nominee in 2024. I mean, that's the hypocrisy of it, isn't it? Lincoln has dropped in from Washington. Is that the Lincoln? That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Thank you. Great to see you. Welcome to Backchannel. Hit subscribe, bottom left-hand corner. Andrea's in from Florida. CJ's joined us as well. Stacy and Marsha and Joyce as well. No Name says hi. Laurie, Tane, Special Beaver, Automatic Parrot, Fiery Bee, Mint Elephant. Thank you all for joining us here on Backchannel. Great to know that you are here. And this is the book that this whole scenario has come from. So if you're interested in buying it, there it is. I don't. It's not a paid promotion. It's just a book. If you're enjoying the Anthony Davis Show, well, I'm Anthony Davis. We're here on Backchannel every weekday morning, Monday through Friday. That's from 9 a.m. Pacific to 11 o'clock or 12 till 2 Eastern. And you can send me a message if you can see me right now and you're watching on an Echo Show or a Fire TV. The magic word is say. So wake up your device, then say the word say, and then your message. And if you're just listening right now on an Echo speaker that doesn't have a screen, then go to backchannel.tv and join the chat there. That's backchannel.tv. And all are welcome. All views are welcome. If you've got something to say, then it would be great to hear from you as well. Okay, let's jump back into some of these stories that we've been looking at. I want to talk about the war in Ukraine. This is as Joe Biden announces an additional $800 million arms package and $500 million in direct economic assistance. Yes, this was announced today. Biden said the newest aid packages bring the total amount sent to Kiev this month alone to more than $1 billion, and credited the defense assistance provided by the US and EU with helping Ukrainian forces defend off Russia's invasion over the last 2 months. I mean, I just hope it's not in vain, I hope it's not in vain, because the worry is that, this is a little bit like kind of, going out for a nice meal and then getting food poisoning, coming back and like throwing up in the toilet. Do you know what I mean? You just like spent $100 on dinner and you didn't even get a chance to digest it before it ended up in the lavatory. And I worry that, you send $1 billion to Ukraine and it's just literally getting blown up. And if Russia are going to continue to make ground as they have, then, eventually Ukraine could lose this war. Let's have a little listen to what Joe Biden had to say on this very subject. Here he is making the making the announcement earlier today. Let's have a little listen to him and see how he presented this new funding to the public.
I signed an $800 million package of security assistance to Ukraine that included new capabilities like artillery systems and armored personnel carriers, equipment that is responsive to Ukraine's needs and tailored to support the intensified fighting in the Donbas region, which is a different war than in other places because both topographically it's different. It's flat, it's not in the mountains, and it requires different kinds of weapons to be more effective. Today, I'm announcing another $800 million to further augment Ukraine's ability to fight in the east, in the Donbas region. This package includes heavy artillery weapons, dozens of howitzers, and 144,000 rounds of ammunition to go with those howitzers. It also includes more tactical drones. In the past 2 months, we've moved weapons and equipment to Ukraine at record speed. We've sent thousands of anti-armor and anti-missile helicopters, drones, grenade launchers, machine guns, rifles, radar systems. More than 50 million rounds of ammunition had already been sent. The United States alone has provided 10 anti-armor systems for every one Russian tank that's in Ukraine, a 10-to-1 ratio. We're sharing and will continue to share significant timely intelligence with Ukraine to help defend them against Russian aggression. And on top of this, these direct contributions from the United States, we're the outfit facilitating the significant flow of weapons and systems to Ukraine from other allies and partners around the world, like the S-300 long-range anti-aircraft systems that Slovakia recently transferred to Ukraine. We are getting them in there. We won't always be able to advertise everything that our partners are doing to support Ukraine and fight for freedom, but to modernize Teddy Roosevelt's famous advice, sometimes we will speak softly and carry a large javelin, because we're sending a lot of those in as well. But we're not sitting on the funding that Congress has provided for Ukraine. We're sending it directly to the front lines of freedom, to the fearless and skilled Ukrainian fighters who are standing in the breach. You got to admit, must be amazed at the courage of this country, the resolve that they're showing, not just their military, but the average citizen, men and women, young men, young women as well. It's, the sustained and coordinated support of the international community, led and facilitated by the United States, is a significant reason why Ukraine is able to stop Russia from taking over their country thus far. Every American taxpayer, every member of our armed forces can be proud of the fact that our country's generosity and the skill and service of our military helped arm and repel Russia's aggression in Ukraine, to beat back Putin's savagery that tried to seize Ukraine's capital and wipe out Ukraine's government. The Battle of Kyiv was a historic victory for the Ukrainians. It was a victory for freedom, won by the Ukrainian people with unprecedented assistance by the United States and our allies and our partners. Now we have to accelerate that assistance package to help prepare Ukraine for Russia's offensive that's going to be more limited in terms of geography, but not in terms of brutality. Not in terms of brutality. Combined with our recent drawdowns, it will ensure a steady flow of weapons and equipment into Ukraine over the next few weeks. However, with this latest disbursement, I've almost exhausted the drawdown authority I have that Congress authorized for Ukraine in a bipartisan spending bill last month. In order to sustain Ukraine for the duration of this fight, next week I'm going to have to be sending to Congress a supplemental budget request to keep weapons and ammunition flowing without interruption to the brave Ukrainian fighters and continue to deliver economic assistance to the Ukrainian people. My hope is, and my expectation is, Congress would move and act quickly. And I want to thank the Congress, Democrats and Republicans, for the support for the people of Ukraine.
There he is, the President of the United States, explaining the essential payments to Ukraine and why it's important that the U.S. supports the country. It's just, I really, get the feeling that we are starting to realize now, the importance of America on the world stage and the value of America's might and budget you know? It's like America has a lot of money, courtesy of American taxpayers. Has a huge, huge amount of money. I mean, you know, America spends around $750 billion a year on the military. Just the US military. $750 billion. And that represents just about 10% of its annual budget. Just think about that. $750 billion on the military, and that is just 10% of the annual budget. You know, Social Security is a huge cost for America, but it can afford it. Saying that, you know, there's also a huge amount of debt that America has racked up. And if you go to the US Debt Clock website, that's one of the best places to kind of visualize the huge and insane amount of money that America is indebted to the rest of the world for, you know. It borrows a lot from China, strangely. You know, I mean, this is why Trump never understood international trade, you know. Just never understood how these things, the tit-for-tat concept of borrowing from world markets and from other countries and then also enjoying their trade, you know. But it's just very interesting to hear how Biden kind of presents this, because he has to be careful. You know, there's a lot of people in America who don't think we should be giving any money to Ukraine. He said, "We will never fail in our efforts to defend freedom and oppose tyranny." He said, "Not all the US assistance is being advertised. Sometimes we will speak softly and carry a large javelin because we're sending a lot of those in as well," Biden said, talking about surface-to-air javelin missiles and playing off a famous line from President Theodore Roosevelt. Just a reminder that this is Backchannel. This is the Anthony Davis Show, and I'm your host, Anthony Davis, and we're here live. And it's the only place on your Echo device where you can watch and listen to live shows and chat with hosts in real time. We're here every weekday, Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. Pacific. That's 12 o'clock Eastern. And you can send a message at any time. You can ask questions. You can chime in on what we're talking about or anything else that you would like to send my way. And if you can see me right now, then you're watching on an Echo show or a Fire TV. So the magic word is say. So wake up your device, say, and then your message, and it'll just come through to me without you having to type anything. But if you're listening on an Echo speaker and you can't see me and you'd like to talk, then go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's backchannel.tv. And thank you to you if you've just popped in and joined. Concerned Chicken has just joined us and is listening in. Mikey is here as well, and that might be Mickey. Welcome. Stacy is here too. And Productive Dolphin, Lincoln, Andrea, welcome to Backchannel. Nice to know that you are here and part of the show. Okay, let's have a little look at some of the other subjects that we were going to be talking about today, because there's a very interesting environmental story about Hollywood. Just before we talk to Hal, your pal, he'll be here in just a second. Hollywood's response to climate change includes donations and protests and other activism, but it's apparently missing out on an approach closer to home, because only a sliver of screen fiction, that's 2.8%, refers to climate change-related words, according to a new study of 37,453 film and TV scripts from 2016 through 2020. A blueprint for ways to turn that around was released on Tuesday. So, I mean, maybe Hal wants to discuss this with us, because I'm sure he'll be interested. But the report is called Good Energy, a playbook for screenwriting in the age of climate change. It was created with feedback from more than 100 film and TV writers, said Anna Jane Joyner, the editor-in-chief of the playbook and founder of Good Energy, a non-profit consultancy. She said a big hurdle that we encountered was that writers were associating climate stories with apocalypse stories. And the main purpose of the playbook is to expand that menu of possibilities to a larger array of how it would be showing up in our real life. Among those who provided funding for the playbook project were Bloomberg Philanthropies, Sierra Club, and Walton Family Foundation. So there we are. I mean, I think, you know, what they're getting at is that a climate change movie doesn't have to be like Don't Look Up, right, which is a climate change movie. where, they get hit by the comet. I mean, I don't want to tell you the ending. But I mean, why not make a movie about solar or about a wind turbine? About, I was thinking about that lovely movie Coda that won the Best Picture. It's about a little fishing village. Why not make a movie about a family living and maintaining some wind turbines? I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't change the location for that purpose. And so this is really, I think, the point of this study is to remind filmmakers that you really don't need to just think of climate change as being a movie like 2012 or The Day After Tomorrow, these kind of classic apocalyptic movies. Dorothy Fortenberry, a TV writer, she wrote The Handmaid's Tale. She said the industry needs to broaden its view of who it writes about, not just what. She said climate change is something that right now is affecting people who aren't necessarily the people that Hollywood tends to write stories about. It's affecting farmers in Bangladesh, farmers in Peru, farmers in Kentucky, she said. If we told stories about different kinds of people, there would be opportunities to seamlessly weave climate in. Very interesting. Is Hal there? Is he joining us? He should be, or will be, in just a second. We'll find out from your pal and my pal, Hal, what's happening in his show in just a couple of seconds, as we kind of analyze the concept that climate change can be a part of the movie industry. They say the entertainment industry's failure to use its storytelling powers more effectively on the issue seems unsurprising to Joyner, who's been working on climate change communications in various sectors and communities for 15 years. For the first decade, she said it felt like screaming into the void because of the lack of response. But the evidence of increasing concern among Americans regarding climate change, including those who are in Hollywood, she said we've gone through a kind of awakening. There's a number of documentaries and news programs about climate change expressing optimism that fiction creators will make steady progress. Interesting. Let's welcome Hal, the pal from down the street. Here he is. Hal, good morning. Do you have a favorite climate change movie, as in like apocalyptic movie, end of the world movie?
Well, that's a great question, Anthony. I think about Don't Look Up from last year. I enjoyed that. The message was a little heavy-handed. I thought the comedy was a tad uneven, but I enjoyed the film. Other than that, well, there are apocalyptic movies and there are climate change films. There are classics like, Mad Max, Fury Road. That's, the planet is absolutely getting a little less hospitable.
Yes.
In that film. And then you have some campy, kitschy classics like, and I use the word classics loosely, like Waterworld.
Right. That was one of the biggest flops in history, wasn't it?
Yes. But what a flop, indeed. Right. But Universal Studios had a Waterworld stunt and action show that, correct me if it might still be going.
Oh yeah, it's still there.
This day.
It is. It's still there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it a couple of times. People go to that and they don't even realize that it is referencing the movie.
Right? The Kevin Costner classic.
Classic.
Dennis Hopper and the Smokers.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I actually had a friend of a friend who I went to Disney with the friend. Not Disney, Universal with the friend. And he said, a friend of mine works on the Waterworld show. He's a stuntman. And I was like, no, really? And he introduced me. We went and met this guy. And he got us good seats. We got there early, got us good seats. Of course, we got soaked. And I watched this guy that I'd met a few moments earlier being, shot and falling off these high, platforms. And he said he died in the show. He said he dies about 26 times. Because they have to, they swim underwater, and then they get back out, and then they change their costume, and then they come in as another baddie.
Yeah. There you go.
Interesting,
That's
right?
Quite a workout. Universal Studios.
Do you know one of my favorite movies is called Elysium? Do you know that
Oh, yes.
film?
Yeah, with Matt Damon.
With Matt Damon, yeah.
And Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster. And it's where the planet has been devastated, and the only people left on the planet Earth are the poor and the unwell and it's been annihilated basically, and so the rich have built this. Elon Musk, I'm sure it's a reference to him wanting to like move away from Earth, but they've built this kind of wheel that floats in orbit that is basically a perfect environment for. It's like a fake natural beauty space,
like a biodome.
Biodome.
Yeah.
And they have a machine that they can cure any illness or disease. And so there are regular transports up and down to this place called Elysium, and Matt Damon stows away or manages to get up there and kind of tries to bring the whole thing down, or bring the regular people down from Earth up to Elysium. And it's actually a really good film. It didn't do very well.
Yeah, I like that director, Neil Blomkamp. He also did District 9, which I thought was a really strong sci-fi film. Then his next film after, I think, Elysium, Chappie, did not fare so well. And because he was in the running to, I think, direct like a Star Wars film or something.
Who was he? That's interesting.
Yeah, but then his misstep with Chappie, I think, sort of led to that kind of.
What was the one that was the follow-up to District 9? He did a second one.
I thought it was Elysium. I thought Elysium.
No, there was another one, and I think of it every time.
Maybe it was Chappie.
No, there was another one. Every time I'm driving down the 10, and I'm about to come off at Lincoln, Cloverfield. There you go. There's the Cloverfield exit always reminds me of this movie. Didn't he do Cloverfield, or was that somebody else?
Cloverfield, was it Matt Reeves?
I don't know. This is a very nerdy conversation about the movies. I'm loving it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, it was directed by Matt Reeves, produced by J.J. Abrams. Matt Reeves, who directed The Batman, the latest Batman film.
Okay.
So Cloverfield was the Batman. And then Cloverfield is a very weird film and a very weird franchise because, produced by J.J. Abrams, Travis, directed by Matt Reeves.
Right.
Any relation to Travis Reeves? But Cloverfield, you have 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah.
You have Cloverfield. But then there was this Netflix film, The Cloverfield Paradox, that had nothing to do with Cloverfield, but then the Cloverfield folks, I guess, paid for it, or Netflix and paid for it, and like just connected it to the Cloverfield universe. But it's just like this tertiarily connected, like this tangential film, and it's like, wait, what is Cloverfield? What happens in Cloverfield?
Yeah. I put myself through the Blade Runner 2024 yesterday. I just had it on like all day because it's so long. I had it all day.
Is it as good as Blade Runner 2049? I'm just
That's
kidding.
The one I'm talking about.
Yes.
That's the one. There's never, my attention to detail is really quite minuscule, but it's actually quite a good movie. I saw it in the cinema.
Yeah.
Immersive. Surprisingly good.
Anthony, have you seen Dune yet?
I am trying to watch Dune. I have put it on maybe 6 times now, and I can only do 10 minutes at a time. I just can't get into it.
See, I feel like you need to like really immerse yourself in it because the vistas, the cinematography, it collected just an armful of trophies at the Oscars.
Yes. I mean, I can tell that it's an amazing looking movie. I think I need to watch it at night. I'm waiting for my new soundbar to arrive that has got Dolby Atmos. And when I get that, I'll get a little bit more immersive, because currently it's all a little bit thin. Listen, great to chat. You have to go now because you've got to get ready for your show, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. But thank you, Hal. Great to see you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Hal's with you in just a couple of minutes. He's going to present the Your Pal Hal Show. I'm Anthony Davis. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific. That's 12 o'clock Eastern. Have yourself a really great Thursday. Bye for now.